The following paid program is furnished by Raskin Resources Productions. It's for basic entertainment and informational purposes only and is solely responsible for its content. It does not necessarily reflect the views of Cumulus Media, its management, or its staff.
Welcome to the Patricia Raskin Show, the program that helps you turn obstacles into opportunities, challenges into solutions, and find answers to tough questions. The award-winning powerhouse voice of radio, Patricia Raskin. And now, here's your host, Patricia Raskin.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the Patricia Raskin Show. So excited to be here. And this half hour is brought to you by Brian Beneduce. He's having an incredible launch party. We're going to talk about this. Brian Beneduce is from North Kingstown, and his company is in East Greenwich, Rhode Island. And he started his company from his bedroom. That company went on to be one of the top companies in its line in America and beyond. Brian shares his success in business with other business leaders all over the world. But what is unique about Brian is that when he started his company from his bedroom, he was terrified to leave that room. He suffered from panic, extreme anxiety, and agoraphobia. And now, many years later, he's written a book, and it's called Scared to Death, Do It Anyway. And that's why we're here today. And we're all going to invite you to a launch party that Brian is hosting on Tuesday. But I do want to tell you about that. It's a national launch of his book at this big event Tuesday, May 17th from 6 to 8 p.m. in East Greenwich at the Poliquin Group facility. It's free and you're invited. NBC 10's Barbara Moore Silva will be hosting. Brian will be speaking, selling books, and all the proceeds will go to Bradley Hospital's Pediatric Anxiety Research Center here in Rhode Island. Welcome, Brian.
Patricia, nice to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Wow. You know, we all know about panic and that anxious feeling, but you had something else, and you called it the thing, and you were afraid it was going to kill you.
Well, anxiety and panic is a word that we're familiar with now, but years ago as I suffered, I never knew what it was. So in my head, the only way I could describe it was by calling it, giving it a name, and I called it the thing. Because, I didn't know what it was until I started reading about it years and years later.
How were you able to deal with this thing that was heavy inside of you and still be successful?
The reason for the book, Scared to Death, Do It Anyway, is because of what you just asked. Humbly, and I'll only use it once, I built up one of the premier packaging companies in the country based on fear and torment. And I'm proud of that fact. I'm proud of the fact God gave me the will to be able to do that and the strength. But I'm also proud of the fact that I was able to find the strength to recognize there was a problem, and years later come up with what I call the healing thought process and fix or beat this thing and bring it to its knees.
What were some of the things that you went through that were, that were stopping you, even though you succeeded? What were some of those things?
Well, we only have a short period of time, so I'll just tell you that it starts at a young age. Some people are naturally worriers, and I was one of them. And as you get into your teenage years and your adult years, it manifests. And if not taken care of, if not dealt with properly, you develop what I call in my book an anxiety tree that has roots and tentacles, and it's all negativity. And you start these negative thoughts, and they're all worrisome thoughts. They're I'm not worthy. Why me? And there's self-doubt and on and on and on.
Don't you think a lot of people go through that?
I'm amazed at the amount of people that go through that. The statistics show 1 out of 10 people suffer from agoraphobia, which is, in this case, the worst case scenario. It goes from, let's say, worry to anxiety attacks, panic, and then obviously
like
the agoraphobia.
Being immobilized.
Right.
Yeah.
But in my situation, it was actually being afraid to get a haircut, being afraid of walking through a mall, being afraid to go to a restaurant. And that's when it becomes crippling. And at that point in your life, it's very hard, it's very difficult to have a normal life. And
So just going from point A to point B. I mean, you could succeed, but just getting there, getting in the car and going to the appointment, that was stressful.
The part I want to talk about in the book is the fact that it's very inspirational. And it's not like, wow, look at me, but it's for people that suffer to realize that there's hope. And even if you don't have acute anxiety or panic attacks, or in this case, agoraphobia, even if you suffer on some smaller level, to realize that it doesn't have to get out of control. It doesn't have to get to a point where you're paralyzed by fear and you have to live your life constantly fighting yourself, because that's what you're doing here. You're fighting yourself, your own thoughts. And that's what anxiety is.
I'd like to open this up for callers. Folks, if any of you are resonating with this, and I know I can at certain times in my life where you're fighting yourself. You're fighting yourself from telling yourself negative self-talk that's really bringing you down. Give us a call, because Brian is such an example of working through this, actually kind of white-knuckling it, right? But then finding his own tools so he didn't have to do that anymore.
As mentioned,
Yeah, and and I'm going to give out the number, 438-WPRO, 438-9776, 800-321-9776. Please give us a call with any of your questions for Brian about anxiety. But you also talk about the levels, like levels from 3 to 9 in terms of where your anxiety was and how you're able to bring it down.
Sure. When I entered the room and you put this headset on me, I was at level 9. And I'm 55 years old, and it never leaves you. And in one of my chapters, it says just that. It doesn't go away because it's just part of your makeup. The thing that I'm able to do using my healing thought process and my IFT training is I'm able to bring it down to a comfortable, from a 9 to a 7 to a 5 to a comfortable 3 where I am now. And that's the difference between being able to deal with it, living a normal life, and constantly struggling with it. And I also want people to realize that if you don't suffer from it, the people that are suffering from it, what they are feeling. And that's very, very important, which is another aspect of this book.
And I think another amazing part of the book, one of the things you talk about, is how when you went through this, you're still going through it, but it's controlled now. Your family really didn't know.
No, I was the proverbial tough guy and the weightlifter and the father and so on and so forth. And I never wanted to show weakness. And there's 75% of the women in this country supposedly suffer more than men. And I don't believe that. I just believe they're the ones that say it more.
All right. We have Ken from Burrillville. Ken, your question for Brian Beneduce. Hi, Ken.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Ken.
Combat vet, wounded, Vietnam. Twice in the last 10 months I've passed out from anxiety attacks. Is that abnormal, normal? Meaning, okay, I know the anxiety and panic is not normal, but the passing out is the question I had.
Very good question, and I get asked that a lot. In my 25 years or so of dealing with this, Ken, I have never passed out because of anxiety or panic. I'm not saying that some people don't. I'm saying that I have never had that happen to me. My advice to you is obviously in this situation to seek help with that, because there could be other issues going on because you were.
I was at the hospital when it happened, so they did a whole battery of tests. I had slightly elevated blood pressure, but everything else was normal. They thought it was a code blue, so they did that whole battery, and they couldn't come up with anything other than my buttons were pushed to the point where I just passed out.
Ken, I would advise you wholeheartely to read my book, because from a guy to a guy, I know I'd be able to help you.
Yeah, I'm on 7 meds a day. I got a psychiatrist at the VA. I got a counselor, and it's screwing up my sleep, so I got another counselor for sleeping.
Well, I appreciate you calling in, and I really do want you to read my book.
All right, and let me give the website.
Sure.
Brian Beneduce, Brian BENEDUCE.com. Take a look at the book. We're really glad you called, and try to come to this terrific event, which is at the Poliquin Group on South County Trail. On Tuesday, it's complimentary from 6 to 8, and you'll be speaking, Brian.
I will be.
And talking about your book. And thanks for calling, Ken.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Okay, all right. Amazing. And what you're saying, and what you're saying is that, people may need professional help on this. And you had that too.
Yes. There comes a point where if it's not taken care of and it spirals out of control, that you might want to, at this point, if I knew now what I knew then, or then what I know now, I probably would have gotten help earlier. Because remember, we're calling it anxiety, we're calling it panic, we're calling it all these words. These are words I never heard of. These are words that were not spoken years ago when I was in my 20s. It was actually a Midwest Center for Anxiety that came on at 1 o'clock in the morning. It was an advertisement. And that's how I found out, oh boy, I have that. Because I had a disease, I had adrenal cancer, I thought I had everything. In fact, I actually wished I had something, because this way I can say, that's the reason why.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there is a time and a point where somebody in that situation should definitely seek medical attention.
All right, and we're going to take a break, but what I'd like to encourage you to do, folks, is give us a call. This does not have to be extreme. So many of us today are going through fear and panic and anxiety. And where Brian can help is that he has used his own tools in his own toolbox to be able to help himself and now help millions of other people. And again, we do invite you to this event. It's a book launch party. And if you need more information, you can email Nancy at brianbeneduce.com, BrianBeneduce. And the name of the book is Scared to Death, Do It Anyway. And again, whether it's extreme or not, so many of us go through this at times in our lives when we have a loss or when we panic about something. So give us a call after the break, 438-WPRO, 438-9776, toll free, 800-321-9776. This program is brought to you by Brian Beneduce and his book, Scared to Death, Do It Anyway. And again, give us a call because there are so many tools that Brian has developed in his book that he's going to share with you right after the break. We're here on News Talk 630 and 99.7 FM WPRO. We're the voice of Southern New England. I'm Patricia Raskin. We'll be right back. Hi, everyone. We are back. You're listening to the Patricia Raskin Show. Right here on News Talk 630 and 99.7 FM WPRO. We're the voice of Southern New England. This half hour is brought to you by Brian Beneduce and his book, Scared to Death, Do It Anyway. And Brian Beneduce has been through agoraphobia in his life. He's a very successful businessman. And through all of that, he's been able to be successful and deal with agoraphobia and now write a book to help millions of people because he came up with his own toolbox to help people. And we're taking your calls at 438-WPRO, 438-9776. You may not have agoraphobia, but you may have panic attacks. You may go through anxiety when something happens that really stops you in your tracks. And Brian has developed a lot of tools for that. Welcome back, Brian. And I know we want to talk about the fact that the proceeds for this event that's happening Tuesday.
Very proud of the fact that I saw in the Pro-Joe that May was Mental Health Month, and I read an article about Bradley Hospital, and I called Nancy, my publicist and friend. It's Nancy, I would like to donate my portion of profits to the Bradley Hospital Pediatric Anxiety Research Center. So within hours, she had a meeting with Bradley Hospital set up. We met with a doctor and several psychiatrists, and they essentially interviewed me. And it was a great back and forth session. And I am very, very proud to say that we are now partnered. And wonderful. They are on my team, and I'm going to help them. They're coming to the book launch. And it solidified the fact that my toolbox is actually it actually works.
And I want to talk to you about the toolbox.
Sure.
But we do want to let people know that this is a complimentary event.
Yes.
The only thing you have to do is RSVP, so we know how many people are coming, right?
That's
so we'll make
correct.
sure there's enough food.
Right.
So again, this is a book launch party for the book Scared to Death, Do It Anyway. It's in East Greenwich at the Poliquin Group, and it's from 6 to 8 on Tuesday, the 17th. Though it's a free event, ample parking, open bar with wine and beer, and hors d'oeuvres. And a portion of the book sales will benefit the Pediatric Anxiety Research Center at Bradley Hospital and the Warren Alpert Medical School of Brown University. So, again, you can get your free ticket by going to brianbeneduce.com, BrianBeneduce.com. If you forget all that, write to me, Patricia at patriciaraskin.com, and I'll make sure that I get the information over. But do log on so that you can sign in and we can make sure that you're coming. All right. So, again, the number is 438-WPRO, 438-976-776 with your questions for Brian. Brian, what are some of the things in your toolbox that, you've talked to people when you speak in front of these groups and they've said, oh, I've tried that and it's really worked. It's really helped me. What would you say?
Well, the first thing is, if I may, Patricia, is talk about a little bit about the book. And the reason I don't want to go into the toolbox right yet is because in order for them to trust the toolbox, they have to read the book and understand exactly what I had. And then they can, as a template, they can put their life over mine and say, wow, I didn't have it that severe, or wow, I did have it that severe. And then come across the healing thought process. And one of the strongest parts of anxiety is learning that it's only anxiety and it's not going to kill you.
Yeah,
and I know it's simplistic when you say it, but it's very true. When you realize what it is, it's adrenaline, it's cortisol, and all that it does, and realize that, okay, it's only anxiety. The problem is, it's how long you've suffered. It's going to take that long for you to actually not only trust me, but trust yourself. Mm-hmm. Because one of the parts in the toolbox is, it's called Nobody's Coming. It's a very profound part of the toolbox, because you have to trust yourself, and you have to trust the fact that the only one that's really going to help you is yourself. Forget about the pills and the billion-dollar drug industry and masking it with alcohol. I could have taken a pill to come in here and talk to you and started at a level 3, but that's not what I want to teach. What I want to teach is you could be normal. You can have anxiety. You can have that, but you can rely on yourself to be able to deal with it and act normal. And you can actually say, you know what? I am uncomfortable, but I teach you to be comfortable in an uncomfortable situation.
One of the things you did when we were talking is use an elastic band on your wrist. Tell us about that.
Sure. This is something also in the toolbox, and it's, again, simplistic, but it works. And what it is anytime there's a negative thought or a negative doubt, or you doubt yourself, what I do is I slap my rubber band. And the reason it's on today is because I know it's Saturday and 75 degrees out, but I'm going on the air. And when it's all about you and you can't get out, that's what panic and anxiety is all about. Mm-hmm. So even to this day, I still utilize my own tools to be able to deal with it and bring it from a 9 to a 6 to a 3.
What about this visualize good, not bad? So what happens when you start visualizing bad?
Same thing that happened on the way here. I started to think about what if. Those two words will bring people to their knees. Okay. What if? Because the only thing after that is negative. Mm-hmm. So when you say exactly that in the toolbox, it's understanding the trust issue and understanding that it's only anxiety. It's not going to kill me. I'm going to be uncomfortable for a few minutes, whether it be a few minutes or maybe even an hour. But no matter what, I'll just be exhausted. That's the only thing that's going to happen at the end. I'm going to be tired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's really believing that too. All right, let's take another one here. There's so many good ones. Good days, bad days.
Good days, bad days. I had a conversation with somebody not too long ago. It's talk to yourself the way you would want somebody to talk to you. Mm. So in other words, why would you talk to yourself in a bad manner? Why would you talk to yourself in a negative way? If I'm talking to my son or my daughter, I'm not going to be talking to them and giving them negative thoughts. I'm going to be reassuring them that everything's okay. Why would I say that to myself? this is going to happen, or you're not worthy, or you're a loser, or all these negative things that you could possibly say to yourself. It takes time, but you have to learn to take a bad thought and make it a good thought. Why am I saying this to myself? I would never let anybody talk to me that way.
So again, it's treating yourself the way you would want to treat someone else.
It sounds so simple, but when you change your thought pattern, it really does work.
Okay, let's do one more. There's so many here that are really great.
If you'd
Pick
like,
one. Pick one.
I'll talk to you about IFT training. How's that?
Okay.
Intense focus training is something that I utilize to this day, and I use it in the weight room. But adrenaline is something that we need. It's a fight or flight, and we need it to get out of a situation, to help us if there's something fearful in front of us. And what I do is you have to find a release for your adrenaline. So what I do is I do it in the gym. And it's not just working out, it's working out a certain way. Again, the comfortable and uncomfortable positions. I'll give you a real quick, for instance. The other day I talked at the Rhode Island Executive Committee, and I was very, very nervous. So what I did was I got on a treadmill, and I got my heart rate up to 200 beats per minute, and I gave the talk. So essentially, I put myself higher, my heart rate higher than it would be when I got in front of them. This way, when I got there and I started talking, I've already experienced that feeling of uncomfortableness, so that it was easier when I started to talk.
Incredible. All right, tell us more about the event. We've got a couple minutes left, about this wonderful book launch party that you would love our listeners to attend.
I would love them to attend because they're going to see somebody, again, who's made millions in their company, who is they're going to see me vulnerable. They're going to see me in front of hopefully a couple hundred people, and I'm going to come out and I'm going to be completely and utterly nervous, to the point of my anxiety level will be a 9. And I will explain how I'm going to get to a 9, to a 7, to a 5. But I'm also going to explain the tools I'm utilizing while doing it, so they will understand that it does work, and how when I get to my comfortable level 2, and I'll explain when I get there, and they will see it. They will actually see it. And it's also going to be fun.
All right, terrific. All right, the website is BrianBeneduce.com, BrianBeneduce.com. And the event is at the Poliquin Group on 1598 South County Trail in East Greenwich this Tuesday, May 17th from 6 to 8. It's a fabulous book launch party for the book Scared to Death, Do It Anyway. It's a free event, ample parking. There'll be an open bar for wine and beer. There'll be hors d'oeuvres. It will benefit, a portion of the book sales will benefit the Pediatric Anxiety Research Center at Bradley Hospital and the Warren Alpert Medical School of Brown University. And the MC will be Barbara Moore Silva from Turn to 10. So we're very excited. Brian, thanks. I know you're coming back on the show in a few weeks. And
thank you, Patricia. Can I use the cough button?
I
would love to use the cough button.
Sure, go right ahead. Okay.
That was
happy.
great. Thank you.
All right. Well, stay tuned, folks. We're going to have Mary O'Sullivan up next. We're here on News Talk 630 and 99.7 FM WPRO. We're the voice of Southern New England. This half hour has been brought to you by Brian Beneduce, and we really hope you go to the launch party. And from the Seascape News Center, the news is up next. I'm Patricia Raskin. Stay tuned.